Hi everybody, and welcome to How to Heat Press Triblends and Other Heat Sensitive Fabrics. I'm Courtney Kubitza. I work with Stahls TV, and today I'm going to talk about a topic that I think is really growing and one that will hopefully help all of you decorators become more successful in 2017. If you tuned in at the end of 2016, we had a live class where we shared a lot of trends that we're seeing for the new year and for 2017. And one that is absolutely going to explode this year that started last year is the use of different blends of fabrics, and specifically tri-blends throughout garment construction. We're seeing this trend really grow, mainly so that the wholesale market can quickly achieve what we're seeing a lot in the retail industry, and this is the use of garments that are soft, more lightweight, and feel more comfortable to the wearer. This is really what a lot of decorators are tending to move towards, what they're seeing in stores and what they want from their wholesale or their custom apparel suppliers as well. And so the great thing about blank apparel suppliers today, like Sanmar, Bella Canvas, J America, Cavio, is that they're hearing these demands and they're creating blank apparel that those of you in our decorated apparel industry can achieve and can get a hold of and print these for your customers. So the manufacturers, what they're doing is now they're taking fabrics that are more delicate, that create that soft feel. So they're traditionally fabrics like polyester, rayon, viscose, which is another type of rayon fabric, and they're mixing it into their cotton blanks to kind of create a drape fit and feel that really feels comfortable to the wearer, creates that soft feel in the garment. But what it does for decorators, especially with heat printing or even screen print technology, is it makes it more difficult or more challenging to print, because we're taking a delicate fabric and we're bringing it and introducing it into heat. And so we're going to talk today specifically about how we can achieve success with printing these garments, what to look for in a heat transfer, how to make some changes at the application step to help to eliminate scorching, which is a common challenge with these fabrics, because as you add more heat sensitive fabrics or higher contents of those into the garment, we're now introducing and creating more heat sensitive blanks. So today, hopefully, we're going to share some tips, or I know we're going to share some tips to make you more successful in printing these types of blanks for any type of logo with your heat press. And so it'll be a lot of hands-on demo here, and I'm going to get ready to kick into that and talk through 3 specific principles as I do the demos that are going to be really important for you to be successful. And so I'm going to head over to the Fusion heat press here. Now the Fusion is traditionally a 16 by 20 heat press. What I have done here is I've actually loaded in a 11 by 15 platen. This is going to be really important for the garments that I'm printing. One, I'm going to be using a lot of ladies garments throughout the class. I'm also going to be trying to remove seams and areas off of my press to ensure accurate application, and this will help me to achieve that as well. And so my first garment that I'm going to be printing in today's class is a tri-blend. And so tri-blends are going to be the most popular heat sensitive fabric that you'll find on the market today. This one is from Sanmar. It's from their District Made line. A tri-blend specifically is made up of cotton, rayon, and polyester. You're usually looking at about 50% cotton and then a mixture of polyester and rayon in the rest of the blend. Depending on the fabric, the rayon is going to actually be a little bit more heat sensitive than the polyester. So if you can find a garment that has less rayon content, it'll be less heat sensitive. This one specifically, I'm looking at about 50% of the cotton, 25% polyester, and 25% rayon. So I'm looking at 25% rayon content here. Now what I've done here is I've loaded my garment onto my platen, and you'll notice that I'm threading it on. When I load heat sensitive items onto my heat press platen, one important thing to ensure is that you're getting all of the seams or raised areas off of the platen. So I am using this 11 by 15 for this raglan to pull these tight shoulder seams and collar off of my platen. That way I can get an accurate application. Also, remember, with any heat sensitive blank, whether it's a polyester or a tri-blend, these seams, because they're raised and higher, are going to leave glossy marks if there's too much pressure applied to them. It also can cause an inaccurate pressure as well. So using a smaller interchangeable platen like this is going to allow me to help isolate this print location. This way those thick seams won't get the extra pressure and gloss up, which is very common for a tri-blend. As with anything, I'm just going to preheat to remove that moisture and wrinkle down from my garment. Once I have my item completely flat, which is the first thing I'm going to focus on whenever I'm loading a tri-blend or heat sensitive item onto my heat press, is my heat transfer selection. For this garment, I'm using a screen printed transfer that is called ElastiPrints. So this transfer is actually a low temperature screen printed transfer. And so I didn't choose to take a screen printed transfer like Goof Proof that I've used for a number of years and just lower the temperature. This one is specifically designed to apply at a lower temperature. So it's going to allow me to reduce any scorching that tends to happen when you have a heat sensitive item. And so ElastiPrints can apply at 300 degrees for 15 seconds. And so 300 degrees is kind of that sweet spot. If you can go down to 280, 265, like we'll see at a few other applications, the lower the heat that the transfer applies at, the better off you'll be when you're heat applying these sensitive garments. So lower heat is always ideal. This 300 degree transfer is going to be the lowest screen printed transfer option that we'll have available. It's also going to be a cold peel, so I'll let it cool down here before I peel it back. But with this application, again, it helps me to significantly reduce or completely eliminate scorch marks on these tri-blend fabrics. Now, it's important to make sure we don't ever take a transfer that's recommended at 320 if it's never been certified at a lower temperature. So you don't want to just take your heat press temperature down. You want to find a transfer that's going to allow you to achieve that result. And so we'll let this cool completely. Feels pretty cold there, so I'm going to go ahead and start to peel it back. And here I have my 2-color screen printed transfer. If you haven't used screen printed transfers before, this one is from Transfer Express. It's their ElastiPrint ink. And screen printed transfers traditionally are very, very good for getting that screen print look. So if I'm trying to achieve something that is going to be maybe a higher quantity, minimum color count, so I'm looking 1 to 3 colors, screen printed transfers are going to be ideal for those orders that are 1 to 3 colors, 100 pieces, 50 plus pieces. That's where I usually start pricing my screen printed transfers because it allows me to print them very effectively. And this is again printed with the ElastiPrint ink from Transfer Express. So that's one successful application. That lower temperature helped us to reduce, actually eliminate any scorch marks that could have been achieved if we would have been at a higher temperature like 365 on this blank shirt. So I'll set this aside and grab another tri-blend that's going to be a similar blend in the fabric. We're still looking at a 50, 25, 25 blend between the cotton, polyester, and rayon. But I'm going to look at another transfer type for this. Now this one is going to be a slimmer cut ladies garment. So again, we're seeing some shoulder seams that could get into the way and cause inaccurate pressure or cause more scorching in those areas if they're left up on the platen, as with the collar as well. So I'm going to load this item onto my platen. Again, using this 11 by 15, it's going to allow me to take the shirt and pull off all of those seams so I don't get that glossy seam if the pressure is over applied there. Preheat to remove some moisture and wrinkles. And then I'm going to line up my transfer. Now this transfer type is different from what we just saw. This one is what we would call a digital transfer or a CAD print transfer. So for something like this, what I'm doing is I'm actually printing a full color image onto a printed heat transfer vinyl material and creating my transfer application. And so this is from the Super Tech line, but basically it's a great way to get full color images on a tri-blend if you have a desire for that for maybe a corporate customer or even a school customer with some gradients or unique logos there. Now this transfer, this Super Tech transfer, this is actually subless stop, is going to apply down all the way at 280 degrees. So again, another low temperature solution that will help to reduce scorching on this fabric. Now I am going to make sure to use a cover sheet. It's always good to use cover sheets for any transfer type outside of the screen printed transfer realm, especially if you're with a heat sensitive garment. It just allows you to place another sheet of protection between the garment and the heating element. So I have my press down to 280 degrees for this application. I'm going to take my transfer and apply it in a multi-step application with 2 steps of 5 seconds. So I'm pressing this for 5 seconds. Once I do the first application, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and peel my carrier back. And then the application just needs 5 more seconds to seal it down into the garment. So I want to make sure to cover that back up with my craft paper here and my cover sheet. And then I'll press that for an additional 5 seconds at 280 degrees. So that gives me a completed application. Again, if I'm looking for a solution for lower quantities, full color, again, a low temperature option here for Triblends. While we're looking at this, Karen, have I had any questions come in throughout the open of the class here?
Yes, one of the viewers is printing on 98% polyester, 2% silver antimicrobial scrub, and they're using the SuperTech opaque media that was digitally printed on their BN20. Do you have any suggestions for that job?
I don't have any suggestions other than I would recommend applying it at the 280 degree application that's recommended for SuperTech. I don't see any challenges with the 10% that you're seeing there, as long as I don't know if the item is a jacket or some type of outerwear. I would just be concerned if it is to make sure there's not a coating on the fabric that can usually inhibit any heat transfer adhesive from sticking to it. So you just want to caution against that and make sure there's no waterproof coating or anything if that's on the item. But the fabrics together should work perfect with SuperTech. Okay, great. If you guys have questions throughout the class, feel free to chat them in. On the GoToWebinar client that we use, they have a chat box with questions that you can easily chat those in, and then Karen will send those over to me as we get them in. Do you have another one, Karen?
One of the viewers asked if they should use a craft sheet as opposed to a Teflon sheet for Triblend materials.
Either cover sheet, so the question was, do I use a craft sheet or a Teflon sheet? Either one will work perfect for the application that we're doing. What I do recommend is just if you're putting it over a transfer where you had saw that I had pressed this transfer once, peeled the carrier, and then left the finish exposed, then I would recommend probably either using whatever finish you want. So a craft paper will allow you to get more of a matte finish. A Teflon sheet is going to bring more of a glossy finish. So if I choose to use craft paper over the second hit, it's actually going to matte up the finish on my SuperTech transfer here versus adding a little bit more gloss, which is what the Teflon will do. But both of them will protect the garment perfectly. I tend to just like that craft paper a little bit better. It's what I've used most often. Okay. So for our next sample here, we're going to look at a fabric construction that's a little bit different. Both of those garments, again, were from Sanmar. They're from their district and district made line of Triblends there, and they've got a ton of great Triblend opportunities. This garment's going to actually be from Bella Canvas. Bella Canvas also sells some Triblends, and they do a lot with blend as well, as they're looking to get that drape and that soft feel on the garment. And so when we start to print these types of items, again, I'm looking at a content here that is 65% polyester, 35% viscose rayon. So we're seeing, again, two very heat-sensitive fabrics. We're actually not seeing any cotton within this garment as well. And so that's why, again, we want to move towards something that's a little bit more low temperature for these types of options. You'll also notice as I load this shirt on here that there's a pocket that's included. And so when I had mentioned a bit earlier about trying to get the print area as flat as possible, trying to remove seams, I have designed with this shirt in mind of putting a design down the side of the shirt down here. So it's going to allow me to completely isolate that print area, removing off all the seams of the pocket or any seams from the shoulders or the sleeves. And it creates a unique print location, which, if you followed our trends, is one thing that we're seeing very popular this year. So again, I got my item flat on my 11 by 15 platen. I am going to dial back my pressure a little bit for this application since I have a different transfer type. Preheat that as I try and test the pressure. And then this transfer, you'll notice, is a Cadcut transfer. So if you're not familiar with this technology, this is cut on a vinyl cutter. These types of transfers work best for personalization, lower quantities. And this product is called Cadcut Premium Plus. So Premium Plus, similar to the last two transfers that we pressed, has a application that allows me to go down to 280 degrees for these heat-sensitive fabrics and when I run into some of these heat-sensitive fabrics. So I'm going to line up my design here that says cheerleader. covering with my cover sheet. And then I'm going to press this for the application of 8 to 10 seconds at 280 degrees. And Karen, if I have any questions, you can go ahead and shout them out while I'm letting this press and cool down a little bit.
Another one of our viewers is looking for advice on printing a 100% polyester shell jacket with Premium Plus heat transfer vinyl. They said that the jacket keeps scorching at 280 degrees for 4 seconds and then 4 more seconds. And they were wondering if you could talk a little bit about adjusting the pressure on your heat press machine.
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes with scorching, pressure is definitely something to consider. If you're doing a print location like I have here, and I'm going to do some left chest prints as well. If you notice that you're doing a smaller print location and you've moved to a smaller plat, and you may find that you're actually over-applying the pressure, even though you don't think that you are. So Premium Plus requires a medium pressure. On a 16 by 20 plat, and if I'm doing a large back print on that jacket, I would have my pressure set at about a 4. And then keep in mind, if I move to an 11 by 15 for maybe a smaller jacket, or a 6 by 10 for my left chest, I am now isolating that print location, and what's going to happen is the mass of this 16 by 20 plat is crunching down onto a very small space, especially when you go to that left chest and raise that print area. And so you want to cut that pressure back so that your heat press is reading more of a light pressure. So a 2 for me would be ideal. That way I'm still getting the pressure it needs. It's still going to feel like a medium pressure on that transfer. It's still going to let it stick and stay, but it's not going to over apply it into a way that it's causing a huge scorch mark. Now I will caution you that there are some applications that the fabric is just too heat sensitive, so even 280 will leave a small scorch mark. So it's while it'll help to reduce it, it may not completely eliminate it, and that jacket may be one of those cases as well. If that's the case, I would recommend trying to isolate the print area to the size of the graphic with either a platen or a Print Perfect pillow, which looks similar to the silicone material that's on your platen there, and you can just tuck that into the garment as well. What else do we have?
Another viewer has a BN20 printer, and they'd like to know what would be the best material for them to use on Triblend garments.
With the BN20, that's going to be the SuperTech product, so the one we had just applied to the Triblend t-shirt. SuperTech actually comes in a few different materials, but anything from that line is going to be 280 degrees and perfect for Triblend. So there's an opaque version for all of your color fabrics, a matte clear version for your light fabrics, and also some cool metallic options as well. So if you want to add a metallic silver or white to the design, you can do that all at that low temperature. Okay, great. So we were able to get that application then on the cheerleader shirt there that you guys can see. It's kind of created a cool print there down on the left-hand side of that application. Then using that lower temperature helps to, again, just significantly reduce any scorch marks that we would see with a higher temperature heat transfer. So far 280 degrees is the lowest temperature that the majority of transfer types will apply down at. If you're able to go at a even lower temperature, that would be ideal. And so the next product I'm going to apply is going to be Cadcut Glaze. Again, it's cut on a vinyl cutter, but this product does allow you to go down to 265 degrees. And it creates a cool metallic effect on the garment. If you have a garment that's going to be incredibly heat sensitive, I would recommend that application. But it goes all the way up to 300 as well if you're looking for that. Now this garment is a new one that's actually from J America, and it is a 100% or a 95% rayon, 5% spandex blend. And so it adds a little bit of spandex to get that stretch and fit that the wearer is looking for. The rayon, again, is the concern because it's going to be incredibly heat sensitive. We've taken any cotton or even polyester, two fabrics that we know a lot about, and gotten rid of it to create this garment that's incredibly soft. It's going to feel great on the wearer, but we have to, again, look for some low temperature solutions when we're printing this item. And so I'm going to apply this all the way down at 200. I would apply this down at 265 degrees. My heat press currently is at 280 for all of my other applications. So we're going to go ahead and leave it at the 280, but keep in mind 265 will allow you to have even more success in printing. And so Cadcut Glaze, if you haven't seen this product, is actually a translucent metallic, so you'll notice how it's completely see-through, and then it adds that metallic sheen to the item that you're printing. And so I'm going to go with blue on top of this teal shirt just to kind of create a cool tone-on-tone effect. There's a lot of things you can do with this fabric, or with this material and fabrics, whether it's tone-on-tone, placing it on a dark shade to get a really vibrant metallic, or on a really light shade just to get some understated metallic sheens on the garment. Again, I'm covering it with a cover sheet, and I'm going to apply it down for 10 seconds at my 280 temperature. This is going to be a completely cold peel, so I am going to let it cool down completely here. I'm actually going to remove it from the press to give it some temperature to cool down here, and we'll move to our next one, and we'll come back and press this application. Okay, so while we're letting that cool down there, I want to talk a little bit more about polyesters. So far we have looked at Triblends, which share a mixture of cotton, polyester, and rayon. We've looked at a polyester and rayon blend from Bella Canvas that we printed with the down the side print. And then we just looked recently at a viscose of a rayon blend with spandex. So it's cooled completely here. I'm going to go ahead and peel that back. Oops, get the transfer to peel up there. So I'm getting a little bit of lifting, which can sometimes happen if it's not completely cool in certain spots. If you notice some lifting or areas where they're not getting enough, if you pulled it too early, if it wasn't cooled down, go ahead and press this back down there. Let it recool. Always, if you're peeling something and you notice a little lifting, maybe you peeled it too early or didn't get enough pressure on the application, you can go ahead and cover it back up, press it back down, and then come back over it and peel it once it's cooled completely. So we'll give that plenty of time to cool down. I was a little bit impatient there. And we'll move to our 100% polyester blend. So these are just two more polyester garments that we're going to look at. There are a ton of polyester garments on the market today. They started in team uniforms with a denier polyester, and now most commonly, polyester is used as a performance wear or a moisture wicking garment, and we see them moved in throughout all kinds of athleisure trends. This sweatshirt, while it looks like just a standard cotton sweatshirt here, is actually a 100% polyester garment. And a lot of the times decorators are using, or manufacturers are using polyester or rayon or viscose as a way to be able to get some of these cool blends and textures that we're seeing very popular in the fabric. And it creates just a kind of unique look and feel on the item. So again, I'm going to load this onto my platen here. Dial back my pressure for my next transfer. And I'm going to load on my transfer type. This one's going to look a little bit different than the last full color transfer that I had. This is actually a transfer that's called stretch litho. And so this is perfect for those very detailed full color logos. So if I have a logo that's going to be a lot of detail that I want to print, the digital transfer that we looked at earlier and the Titans logo isn't ideal for that. So stretch litho allows me to get that full color and that fine detail. And this is something you wouldn't be able to print on your BN20 or your solvent printer. This would be a transfer you would need to order. So I'm going to cover this just to protect my polyester garment. Again, the same principles apply. I'm looking for lower temperature. This applies at 275 degrees for 15 seconds. And it is a completely cold peel, so I'm going to allow that to cool down completely there. And once that's completely cool, we'll be able to go back in there and create our print. If you have a bunch of cold peel garments, one thing to keep in mind is that you can always lay them aside, press them all, come back and peel them a little bit later. I'm probably one of the most impatient people in the world when it comes to peeling transfers. Just because I love the finish, I want you guys to be able to experience it and see it all too. There we go. So we're getting that stretch litho on there with the Team Jenna. Again, just another great option for a digital transfer. Lower temperature. It's going to be perfect for those full color applications when we want to create something like that on a heat sensitive blank like this polyester sweatshirt. And keeping in mind with textures, that one I had just printed earlier, the next garment is again something that looks and actually feels, if you haven't seen this and you're maybe attending a trade show this year, or if you're ordering some garments in, I recommend this one from J America. It's one of their new cosmic hoodies, and so this one, this quarter zip, actually has a feel that feels identical to cotton. It's incredibly soft, has a nice fleece inside, but again, we're looking at 100% polyester here on the tag. And so when I print something like this, it's not going to print the same way that 100% polyester does. It's going to be much more heat sensitive. But again, I'm getting this really great texture on there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my 11 by 15 platen for this application, because it's actually going to be a left chest. So this, again, I'm just switching out my platen using the quick change latch here, dropping in this 6 by 10. This follows those same principles. I'm trying to isolate the print area as much as possible, but if you remembered earlier, I talked about how sometimes you can over apply too much pressure when you move to a smaller location. And so I'm going to check my pressure here and adjust it as I need to, so I make sure I have enough pressure for the transfer now that I've changed that platen, but I don't want to overdo the pressure that's here. That way I'm not leaving too much of a mark, because although I'm only reading a 2 out on here, it's still going to be like a medium pressure. Also, I'm going to start to kick my heat press temperature up to 300 degrees. I'm probably going to be a little bit lower temperature when I do the application, but we'll go ahead and start warming it up here. So for this application, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit more about special effects. And so when I get a special effect like a glitter, this is actually Cadcut Glitter Flake, or I have a request for a shirt maybe for monogramming or for a dance squad or for a cheer squad, where they want these 100% polyester garments or these triblends, and they still want that glitter finish. Cadcut Glitter Flake traditionally applies at 320 degrees for 10 to 15 seconds. Sometimes 320 degrees just is a little bit too hot of a temperature. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a 2-step process that's been approved and allows Glitter Flake to be completely durable, but it's going to reduce the temperature a little bit. This way that I'm not overkilling or over scorching the garment here. Start by preheating my item just to get some of that moisture and wrinkles out. And then for my application, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it at 300 degrees, so that lower temperature, for 10 seconds. Go ahead and grab my cover sheet over here. So far, very similar to the application that you guys know if you've used Cadcut Glitter Flake, or that I just recommended. So we're just starting out again with that first 10-second hit. Still using my medium pressure at the 300 degrees. I'm going to peel this carrier back. And then for my final step, I'm going to recover this up, and I can use any cover sheet. There's no change in the sheen on Glitter Flake since it has that textured glitter finish. And I'm going to seal it for another 5 seconds at 300 degrees. And so when I remove that carrier and I do this last step of 3 to 5 seconds, it's going to allow the heat to move through that glitter material very nicely and still give me the extra heat that I need to cure it onto the shirt. So sometimes just lowering that extra 20 seconds off of the item can really allow you to have success when you're printing glitter finishes onto fabrics like you see here and creating some different prints and finishes. So always keep that special glitter flake application in your back pocket, especially if you do a lot of polyesters or intend to do polyesters with this popular material. So it's 300 degrees, 10 seconds at a medium pressure. Peel that carrier back and then cover it and seal it for an additional 3 to 5 seconds to make sure the adhesive is stuck down to the fabric. I'm going to head over to the table here and just kind of regroup and talk a little bit more about some of the things that I want you guys to remember as you start to go into printing these types of garments in your shop. And so the first thing that I made sure to cover is that you absolutely want to make sure to choose a heat transfer with a low temperature application. Low temperature is as low as you can get it. Below 300 degrees is ideal. Most low temperature heat transfers today will start at 300 and work their way down to 265. As the fabrics continue to evolve, of course, there's going to be more heat transfers that I'm sure will enter the marketplace that'll help to fit that place. But look for a transfer that's designed to apply for that temperature. Don't just take your current transfers and adjust the temperature. That's always not recommended because it probably won't stay as durable or won't apply the same way that you had hoped. And so lowering that temperature is going to help for any heat-sensitive fabric to become less heat-sensitive and help to avoid scorching. It is always a it's not always 100% guarantee is I guess what I should say. Sometimes you will still have hard to decorate items like I had mentioned. If that's the case, you may want to look at some accessories just to isolate the print location. That way it helps to reduce any scorch marks that's seen on the garment or makes it look less visible. Those are some tips there for that. Also, when you're printing, any thing you can do to remove seams or collars from a tri-blend or a heat-sensitive blank like that is really going to help you become more successful. If I go ahead and remove that those extra thick seams, it'll help to avoid them from having too much pressure and getting more gloss. Sometimes scorching happens to fabrics because of overpressure, so keep that in mind when you're using your heat transfer, that you're not over applying your pressure all the time. I know some decorators that do that just because they want to make sure it sticks and stays. If the transfer is recommended at medium pressure, you can feel confident in doing it at a medium pressure. Likewise, getting those seams off there will help to ensure that although your press is reading out at a medium pressure, if my seams are up there, they may actually be getting a firm pressure because they're so much thicker than the bottom part of my shirt, so they get a little bit over applied. And then so that can be achieved with those heat printing platens like we just saw. If you don't have interchangeable platens, you could even work with heat printing pillows or print perfect pads to raise that print location as well. Lastly, all of the transfers, and I don't think I mentioned this, but all of the transfers that I've shown here today, the screen printed transfers, the digital transfers, Premium Plus, all of these are soft and they're lightweight. And so we like to use the analogy when you're choosing, the benefit of these garments is that they're thin, they're soft, they're lightweight, they feel comfortable to the wearer. And so the last thing you want to do when you have something that's like a nice steak is to put ketchup on it. So you don't want to take a transfer that's thick or rigid or heavy and place it onto these soft, lightweight garments. It's going to kind of defeat the purpose. And so we want to look at something that's not only low temperature, but soft. So it's going to create the same feel that the wearer is looking for. And there are a lot of soft heat transfers on the market. We've seen a lot of them here today, and it'll help to make that a little bit softer. You could really even get a soft feel with your transfer, because I know sometimes heat transfers tend to just feel thicker when they have large coverage spaces. So you could even play around with your artwork, having knockout areas, open spaces that allow you to have more breathability, make it feel a lot more softer on the garment, thinner text. All of that will help you to achieve that as well. So that should help set you guys up with some success for printing tri-blends, heat-sensitive fabrics. Hopefully you guys have been able to pick up on a few things here today. If you have questions, you can head over to the Stahls TV forum. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Stahls TV blog as well, where we always share tips on these types of things, as well as trends in fabrics and all kinds of stuff to help you grow your business. So thank you for joining me here today, and I will see you guys next week.